WHPC Garden City, New York, the voice of Nassau Community College.
Listen.
Join WHPC's Daily News Wrap-Up, weekdays at 4:30 p.m., bringing you a complete report of the day's news home and abroad, as well as sports, weather, and many other informative features.
Gotcha.
We're Long Island's FM alternative.
Yeah, baby. Welcome to From the Pressbox on this Monday, September 22nd, 2014. We're here every Monday talking sports. I'm Rob Leonard, and joining me, as always, is my brother,
Tim Leonard.
And joining us today, anytime we can have a reunion on air, we will do it. Joining us is an old friend of both myself and my brother, from different parts of our lives, actually, is Neil Macchio. Neil, welcome to From the Pressbox.
Good to see you guys.
And Neil, of
together.
course,
Usually I work with you guys separately at different parts of my life.
You're having Leonard overload right now.
Yes, being double teamed by the Leonard brothers. That's kind of scary.
That's not a good way to put it.
Yeah. So Neil, of course, worked many years at WNYG Radio, doing sports and news there, working with Big Ed Newlands, who used to and still has a show here at WHPC.
I hope Big Ed is listening.
In this building.
No, Big Ed. I already called Ed. He goes, I gotta put up the solar panels.
Come on, Big Ed.
So he's on the roof. What do you want him to listen? We're gonna make him laugh. He'll fall off the roof. He'll get disability arrest.
Come on, we have cell phones. We have
that's what
technology
big speakers are for.
No, Ed's gonna listen to the
podcast.
The podcast right afterwards. Of course, Big Ed every Thursday morning at 12:01. With Good Gold, playing the oldies that the rest of the world has forgotten, basically. CBS FM doesn't play them anymore.
I won't ask why it starts at 12:01 as opposed to 12.
Because it reminds people that's Thursday, not because people think midnight. They don't. Most people know midnight's the beginning of the day, but a lot of people don't. So that's why I say 12:01.
A lot of people are stupid.
Well, of course, Timmy. Not everyone is as smart as you. Remember that.
If only, If
only life was as smart as you are.
Oh, come on. Let's start the show.
I thought the show was about sports.
Yeah.
It is about sports.
Yeah, it's also about brotherly bickering.
That's not true at all. That's not true at all. So what do we start with? We want to start with the Giants actually winning yesterday. I mean, they're now 1-2. They played
blue.
They played pretty good, actually.
They played very, very well. Quite well, actually.
So,
given that the dire predictions before the game that J.J. Watt would run rampant and that the Giants wouldn't be able to do anything offensively, they finally looked like a real team. I mean, after the first 2 weeks, the offense ran fairly well. Victor Cruz scored a touchdown for the first time since week 4 of last year. Broke out the salsa. I've been eating plain nacho chips for almost a year now.
They did get off to a slow start.
Yeah.
So the offense is still not quite clicking.
It seemed like it clicked in, though, at some point, maybe after halftime.
Yeah.
But finally, it's like 3 weeks into the season is not when you want your offense to finally start clicking.
Are you concerned that maybe this was against an undermanned Texas team that didn't have their best running back? And
also true.
Not the fairest test.
No, but at this point,
but a good confidence builder.
A win is certainly what the Giants needed, and not only just a win, but to look good in winning.
Right.
It wasn't. You couldn't really point back and say, all right, well, this was a fluke. This was a fluke. Injuries. That's just a part of being in the NFL, and if you're lucky enough to get a team when they're down some guys, take the win and move on to the next one.
Well, no one scored in the first quarter, for neither team. And Yankees. The Giants scored 14 in the second, so it's not a bad thing. I think the Giants are slowly maybe going to get to where they have to be. I think it's going to be a better season for the Giants than people predicting. Though I hate the West Coast offense. You have Eli. I'll say this before. I'll say this again. Eli is one of these guys who can throw. Let him throw.
Well, this is the strange part to me because the Giants' offense actually started kicking in when they went no huddle. Right. And no huddle. That's a 2-minute offense.
No huddle a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, but that's a 2-minute offense and not a West Coast offense. And I've said this on the show before several times. Eli is a very good 2-minute quarterback. I mean, in that offense, that's all you have to do is look at Super Bowls past to see what he can do in a 2-minute offense. But this West Coast offense, I don't know what the difference is from his mentality, but it still doesn't really seem
maybe
to be
that's what
working
part of
all
the
that well.
problem was. Maybe there's some miscommunication there in running that offense.
I don't know. I mean, all I know is it was good to see.
Let's don't forget, you've got a new coordinator, so that's there's a transition period. And I think people maybe needed to be a little more patient with them.
Oh, for sure, but I'm just not sure that Eli is a West Coast quarterback. I mean, he really is a classic drop back passer,
right.
And the West Coast offense forces you to go 3-step or 5-step drop as opposed to 7, and it's a faster timing. So
right. It forces you to get rid of the ball quicker.
Right. And I don't know if Eli is suited for that. But again, I mean, the Giants scored points yesterday. Victor Cruz was involved in the offense. So everything that they wanted to see.
I think they could have used that last year when they had all the problems with the offensive line, because now you're getting rid of the ball before you have a chance to get sacked.
Yeah. And obviously the line did a great job yesterday because Rashad Jennings went nuts.
I mean, I think that was a lot of the problem last year, was that they had so many injuries early on up the offensive line. They really didn't have a chance to settle in on offense.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I mean, but, right now, this is kind of the wild thing to me about the NFL is that last week people are talking about the Giants going 0-6 and the season's going to be a disaster and what are they going to do? And this week you win a game and all of a sudden everything's great. And look at the Giants; they played well, and hey, reason for optimism. It's a total 180 just in the span of a week.
That's the way it is now in the NFL, because there really is a lot of parity in the league. Maybe you could discount Seattle. Seattle seems to be a little bit a notch above everyone else.
They played really well yesterday.
And I know the Chargers beat them, so maybe you have to start including the Chargers in that discussion. I don't know. Maybe it's just a good week.
I'm still not convinced on Phillip Rivers.
I think from Seattle on down, it's anybody can beat anybody on any given Sunday. As they say.
There you go. Well, I mean, Denver yesterday, I mean, that game could have obviously gone either way since it was overtime. But, I mean, those two teams seem to be the class of the AFC. So we'll probably see both of them or both of them down the road again. I don't know.
Well, I think it's always been if you win all the bad mistakes, they sort of get.
But are there good mistakes?
Yes, there are good mistakes.
I figured I'd ask.
All right.
A good mistake would be one that doesn't allow for a touchdown. Let's say you make a fumble, but then your defense comes in and then
ask Coach Coughlin if a fumble is ever a good thing.
Well, Coach Coughlin is
Coach Coughlin wants to stitch the ball to an arm.
Didn't he mellow out this week?
Apparently, the players asked him if they could play music while they were stretching, and Coach Coughlin said yes. So that in itself is giving the players. See, this is what Coughlin has.
What songs did he allow? That's the
apparently question. From what I read, from what Eli Manning said, a lot of '90s rap. Ugh. So it was loud. You can bet that, and it was probably not very musically pleasing. Especially to the
not something Tom would have on his iPod.
No,
if he has an iPod,
I doubt he does. But if one of his grandchildren gave him one and programmed it for him, I'm assuming there's probably not a whole lot of.
I picture him listening to like a Victrola with the old 78s.
I can see him listening to some Run DMC, some classic Run DMC or something.
No, because
what about
Coughlin was old even when Run DMC was out.
Yeah, he is. I mean, if you go back 25 years, he'd be 45 or so.
And no, Coughlin, no. Rap music, no.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk about, one thing it's overhanging the NFL right now is this whole thing with Roger Goodell and the domestic abuse.
I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah.
Well, on Friday, I actually watched the press conference, and I have to say, he looked horrible in it. He looked like he didn't want to be there, which is understandable.
Well, he's looked horrible throughout the entire episode and hasn't wanted to be there through the entire episode, which is why I called for him to resign last week.
But he's not going to.
Is he going to walk away from a $40 million a year job?
No.
Yeah, probably not.
No, he's not. But I think the thing is, and he said something really interesting, which I give him a little credit for. He said the NFL security people, when they do investigations, base it on whoever the police department doing their own investigation. They don't want to interfere because they're the NFL, and they know because they're the NFL, they can probably get stuff pushed under the rug. Now, mind you, by waiting until the police departments make their investigation, sometimes things can get pushed under the rug or people forget about it. This isn't happening right now. But I thought that was interesting that he said that basically we wait until the investigation's done by the police department.
Did he actually say? I'm not going to say that he said pushed under the rug, but he
didn't use that word.
He alluded to that.
No.
I'm trying to find. I didn't watch this thing.
He was trying to say, well, we're the NFL, and we don't want to get in the middle of it. He wants the police departments or whatever to make their investigation.
Well, he's kind of talking about due process, the thing how to go through the legal process, which I understand, but. And maybe that's the source of all this, is that the legal authorities in New Jersey and Atlantic City didn't even handle this properly.
No. So
it's been mishandled on a lot of levels,
exactly.
And I'm still convinced, I'm saying this with no proof whatsoever, but I'm still convinced that an employee of the Revel Casino, which has since been shut down for bankruptcy reasons, I'm still convinced that a security employee there had a copy of the tape and sold it to TMZ.
Absolutely. Look, he's out of a job.
Exactly.
The casino shuts down.
So here you go.
So now he doesn't have to worry about somebody above coming down on him or any ramifications.
100%. Who's going to suspend him? Who's going to fire him? He's out. So
I wouldn't doubt that. I think
get a nice fat check from TMZ.
But that being said, and I think we talked about this the other day, is the how does the video change things? Whether that video comes out or not. They screwed up.
It changed nothing for me because we knew we saw them going into the elevator. We saw video of them going into the elevator, and we saw a video of Ray Rice basically trying to drag. I mean, first of all, how drunk was he that he couldn't even kind of bend over and pick up his wife, who looks like she doesn't weigh more than about 130 pounds.
She looked like she was dead when he was dragging her.
She was unconscious. She was basically dead. She was breathing dead.
I was shocked when he pulled her and by her like.
But that's my point. Is why couldn't he, unless he was completely inebriated, why couldn't he just bend down and pick her up instead of dragging her awkwardly?
Because he didn't want to. That was
I mean,
he was mad at her. That was part of the whole thing.
But there's other people there watching what's going on. He's got to see it. He's got to realize at some point, oh, there are other people around, and this doesn't look good. And if it's somebody who knows who I am. Just pick her up and throw her over your shoulder or something, and just say, "Oh, you know what? She's drunk. She passed out."
Right.
As opposed to, hey, one shot knocked her out.
I know. We all saw it. The only people that didn't see it were the NFL officials.
Yeah. But the problem was, like you said, was how do we not know what happened? They're the only two people in the elevator. They go in. They're both walking. And when they come out, she's sprawled out on the floor.
And now,
what do you think happened?
The best part is Ray Rice's new line is that the video was edited. Well, what's missing in that video that we need to see now? Was there an intruder that came in, punched her, and ran off?
Somebody, much like maybe the Die Hard movies, somebody dropped into the elevator from the roof, punched her. And then had like one of those little.
I was thinking like
Batman ropes.
Hannibal Lecter, where he's hiding in the elevator shaft.
That's what I'm saying. Dropped down through the elevator ceiling.
Yeah, what happened there?
And then had one of those like Batman utility belt tools that pulled him right back up, and just like that.
The funny thing about the whole thing with this, we all know casinos have cameras literally everywhere.
Everywhere. Everybody knows
That's the thing about it. Everyone thinks, well, it's kind of quiet over here. There's no camera, but there is a camera.
There's cameras everywhere.
And
and here's a guy who's always in the public eye, where TV cameras on the field.
He should know.
They get him everywhere. He should know.
Yeah.
So
I thought Goodell's press conference was bad. But you pick Friday. Tim, you guys both know this, working in the news business. You pick Friday because Saturday is the least read paper out of all the week.
Smallest paper, too.
Smallest
news hole.
The only thing you hope is that...
but I made something of this magnitude. There's no way he could have hid from this. And,
no, but you do it on Friday.
How about the fact the press conference was interrupted by...
Benji
from the Howard Stern show.
It's not the same when it's
so somebody was saying typical NFL security, they can't even keep. No wonder why they can't get this.
Well,
right.
actually,
they can't even keep Benji out of the press conference.
They don't know Benji, so they just probably saw the Sirius.
Well, he was supposed to have a credential to get in there.
Yeah, he probably had it from Sirius.
And then he was screaming about "Don't throw me in the elevator."
Yeah,
which was ridiculous. But that's Benji being Benji.
I miss Stuttering John.
I thought it was idiotic, and but then Goodell, after all this happened, and they dragged Benji out of there, took a serious tone and said, "I want everybody to know I had nothing to do with that."
Well, of course he did. Imagine he planned that.
Come on, man. I mean, seriously, you felt the need to say that? Okay.
Well, but you know what? That's how bad it's gotten in his mind. That he has to do that.
He's clueless, is what it is. I mean,
I don't know if he's clueless.
I just don't think he knows what's going on.
You know what happened last week? that really, I think, scared the NFL.